What's cracking, y'all? Welcome back to the station. Welcome back to the channel. Y'all know who it is. It's your boy, Ray G. You can find me on Twitter at RayGQ. And we're going to talk about 6 wide receivers today that a lot of people think they have the opportunity to ascend to that elite territory for fantasy football purposes. Now, right now at this stage of the game, everybody's doing the same thing. We're trying to tell ourselves a story to figure out which guys have a chance to ascend to that Jamar Chase, Cooper Kupp, Devonta Adams level of production for fantasy football. And there's a lot of good stuff out there, but I believe that the 3 key components to figuring out which receivers are going to be elite are very clear. They've been right in front of us, and intuitively, it makes a ton of football sense. And I've sort of coined these 3 metrics in conjunction with one another, the Holy Trinity. Yes, I live down south. I spent a lot of time in Louisiana. I'm down here in Texas. So we eat a lot of etouffee, a lot of gumbo, and the Holy Trinity is onions, bell pepper, and celery. You can't have any base of a mixture of gumbo, of an etouffee without the Holy Trinity. And I think the same principles apply to the wide receiver position. And those 3 ingredients are target share, air yard share, and run after the catch ability. And just think about it from a very basic level. You want receivers, target share, that have an ability to earn the targets. I want 150 targets, 160 targets. Makes sense. Not only do you want the targets, you want receivers that can get down the field. Can you get down the field and get those big play opportunities that your offense provides? And then finally, when you get the ball in your hand, don't just fall down. You got to run. So if you're getting the targets, you're getting the air yards, and you're being able to do something after the catch, you probably have a really good chance of being an elite wide receiver. Now, I will say there is a caveat to this. There are some other ancillary metrics that you can look at, like yards per route run, touchdown rate, but touchdowns are very, very, very unsticky. But your quarterback, what type of quarterback do you have? Do you have an efficient quarterback? And if you don't have an efficient quarterback, I would want to see that target share jump up a little bit. So as we talk through this, and I will continue to preach the Holy Trinity for wide receivers, I just implore you to take a look at the information on your own, and it's a very common theme. The dope wide receivers that are scoring you 18, 17, 19, 20 points a game, all of those components are present. Or if one ingredient is missing, they're making up with it because they've got rare ability to earn targets, get down the field, or yards after the catch. So I want to talk about 6 players who a lot of fantasy gamers are excited about. Let's dive into the information right now. All right, so I pulled up my database where I house all of my dynasty rankings and some information. We got a lot of stuff in here, patreon.com/allgas. But I really wanted to give you a visualization of how we are going to go through this exercise. And we're going to start with the man at the top, the baddest man on the planet, Justin freaking Jefferson. So we talked about target share, air yard share, and yards after the catch. And here are the qualifiers for this exercise. So if you are elite in this category, your target share over 30%, elite light 25 to 29%, average about 20 to 25%, below average 15 to 20%, and if you are under 15% target share, that is bad. Air yard share, same kind of principles, 40%, 35 to 40, 28 to 35% is average, 20 to 28% is below average, and if you're below 20% air yard share, that is bad. Let's go to run after the catch. If you're getting over 6 yards after the reception, that is elite territory. Elite light, about 5 to 6 yards after the catch. 4 to 5 is average. 3 to 4 is below average. And below 3 yards after the catch is not good. That is bad. We've got PFF quarterback grades in here just to give us some additional context to how these receivers are performing with their quarterbacks and what type of quarterback that they have. Kirk Cousins, according to PFF's grade from last season, is an above average quarterback, and we've got those categorized. If you got a grade over 90, you're elite. 85 to 90 is great, so on and so forth. So when you look at Justin Jefferson, right? Elite light, 25 to 30% target share on his team, phenomenal. The air yard share, 35 to 40% is all going to Justin Jefferson from last year. He's got an elite yard per route run. His yards after the catch is elite light, 5 to 6 yards after the catch, and he's got an above average quarterback. So when you look at all of these things in conjunction with one another, this makes up your elite wide receivers. Again, you look at Ja'Marr Chase, and I've got these guys categorized as BAM tier by any freaking means necessary. You want to have those guys. Ja'Marr Chase, not the best with yards after the catch per reception, but he's got an elite quarterback, right? He's got an elite quarterback, Joe Burrow, and every other metric that he has, target share, air yard share, yards per route run, all of those are elite light territory. One more player I want to bring up because I love thinking about this is Tyreek Hill, who yards after the catch per reception is average. You know, you would think with so much speed, he'd be much better after the catch, but that is really where Jaylen Waddle thrives in this offense. But elite target share, elite air yard share, rare. Yards per route run. You see a wide receiver averaging over 3 yards per route run, you can go back over the history of time. You might get 1 or 2 players a season that actually achieve that. So even though his yards after the catch per reception is average, everything else is elite, rare, and he's got a good quarterback. So those are the parameters, and these are why some of these guys are the elite wide receivers. When you look at this chart and you look inside of the database, I just want you to notice something that's happening. I'm just going to scroll down, and you see as we start at the top of this, and I don't have the rankings because I kind of rank differently, but everything looks like Christmas. It's blue and it's green and it's pretty. But as you scroll down and you get down towards the kind of fringy guys, it gets real ugly. It's yellow, it's red. This tells you these are players that, you know, there go your elite guys up here. So let's dive into the data a little bit and talk about these 6 wide receivers and which guys have a chance to ascend to elite territory here in 2023. And I want to talk about one of the more interesting case studies, and it's DK Metcalf. And I think the reason why it's applicable to talk about DK Metcalf at this particular point in time is due to the fact that JSN is injured and it's looking like it's going to be DK and Lockett at least early to start the season. So when you're looking at DK Metcalf right now, target share, it's elite light. I mean, it's exactly what you want. Blue across the board for target share. The air yard share is there. He's got an above average quarterback. Yards per route run, average for DK Metcalf. The issue with DK is his yards after the catch per reception are not good. So when we are trying to tell ourselves a story about players ascending, hitting that elite territory, this is one where it feels like it should still work out for DK Metcalf. If he was just average in this category, after he gets the ball in his hands, can he do something? This would have DK Metcalf at least valued from a production standpoint much higher than fantasy gamers we're looking at him right now. So the fact that he does not have this component in the Trinity, this is one of the few examples where I'm like, well, what else is it, DK Metcalf? If everything else is elite light, you've got an above average quarterback, the run after the catch ability combined with a low yard per route run is probably what's suppressing his production. And we were excited about DK Metcalf a couple of years ago, and he did do really well after the catch, a couple of years ago. But last season took a big time dip. The addition of JSN and what he does in the short and intermediate space, this is what's a little concerning about DK Metcalf's profile right now. We'll see if he can turn that around and add to his repertoire early in the season without JSN. But this is why, for me, even an underdog, when I'm sitting there in the third, I really don't want to spend a top 30 pick on DK Metcalf because the story that I have to tell myself that he's going to be a true difference maker seems like it's a far-fetched one at this point in time. So let's get into the 5 receivers that I really want to touch on for this exercise. And we're going to start out with New Orleans Saints wide receiver Chris Olave, who I do think has a chance to achieve the Trinity this year and take that leap and become a true elite difference maker for us in fantasy football. So when we look at Chris Olave, the target share, and this was without Michael Thomas last season, was elite light. I mean, between 25 to 30% target share for a rookie wide receiver. Let's go. And this was a team with the Saints who struggled offensively with Andy Dalton, right? It was a rough go for the New Orleans Saints offensively, but Chris Olave was definitely the bright spot in this offense. The air yard share, oh my gosh, over 40%. Let's go. That's what you want to see. 40%, which is elite in Chris Olave's territory. Very good. Very good. Strong onions in this dish. Yards per route run for Chris Olave, elite light. Now, here's the issue with Olave. It's the yards after the catch per reception is a below average. This was something he did not do a lot in college. And inside of this, we could scroll down and kind of look at what he did his final season at Ohio State. And you can see right here, our director of analytics, Jordan Backus, yards after the catch per reception, his final season at Ohio State, not good. All right. It's below the 50th percentile range. And then as you continue to go down a little bit, it was even worse the year before. So this is not an indictment on Olave. I believe that players are who they are, and you utilize players and accentuate the skill sets that they do have. Highlight the things that they do well, and you look at it, yards per route run, high air yards. He's always been able to command the downfield targets, but the story of Chris Olave becoming a yak monster, this is where I have some trepidation of him becoming a true elite difference maker in fantasy. And if I just had to give you a wholesale general statement today on him, this is a player that I would absolutely want. I want a roster. I want to play. He's good. But if I could pivot, tier up, tier down, accumulate some additional capital, I just don't think that he's ever going to be the type of player that is a dominant yards after the catch guy. Now, you can still be elite with one missing component of the Trinity, but it needs to be rare, super elite, and we'll see how that plays out this year with a strong running game with Alvin Kamara and Jamal Williams. Michael Thomas is back. I do like the upgrade at quarterback, but this is why I'm still a little cautious on Chris Olave truly becoming an elite difference maker for us in fantasy football. Let's move on to the next wide receiver, and I want to talk about Jaylen Waddle. Miami Dolphins wide receiver Jaylen Waddle, phenomenal player. We love him for fantasy. He was good at Alabama. We saw him produce both seasons early in his career. And you look at his holy trinity ingredients. Start with the quarterback. It's good, right? That's the salt. That's not a main ingredient, but you need it inside of the trinity mixture. You got you a very good quarterback, so that's an added bonus. You look at his target share. Even with Tyreek Hill, he's still commanding damn near 30%, between 25 and 30% target share for Jaylen Waddle, which is elite light. That is very good. Great ingredient in the Trinity. Yards per route run and yards after the catch, elite. He is dominant. Led the league, I believe, in yards after the catch per reception. Yards per route run are very high. What is the problem with Jaylen Waddle? Which is, again, you think about him from a football standpoint, you're like, you're a downfield threat, you're a speed demon, but he's below average in the air yard share. And when you take a look at what he did in college, what he did his rookie year prior to Tyreek Hill, you see the air yard graph right here. Not bad, but it's the one thing that's holding Jaylen Waddle back from being that elite difference maker. We saw Tyreek Hill's his metrics and peripherals at the beginning of this video, but that's my concern for Jaylen Waddle. But I'm not as concerned about this one as I am with Chris Olave. I do, if I need to tell myself a story that he gets an uptick in air yards, I can see that playing out, especially with a strong running game. You open up one-on-one situations on the outside. I can see Waddle getting down the field a little bit more than he did last year. So again, we're trying to tell ourselves a story using data, using analytics to say this is a plus EV bet to make on a player becoming that next level, ascending to that superstar category. A lot of people say, oh, these are the superstars. Let me tell you something. The superstars are Cooper Kupp, Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb. It's those guys. But in Dynasty, because of age, people ding and knock those guys. But those are your damn superstar players. We want to figure out which one of these young stars can ascend to that superstar level. And I definitely think Jaylen Waddle can get there through the air if they bomb it down the field to him a little bit more this fall. So let's move on to one of the hottest names in fantasy football from all accounts, and somebody that we are all bullish on for this season. And man, I love me some Amon-Ra St. Brown. This is a player that some people think should be ranked number 3 in Dynasty at wide receiver. Amon-Ra, going into his rookie year, 4th round pick, he dominates. They go out, they spend a 1st round pick on Jameson Williams the next year. He's hurt. Amon-Ra dominates again. Going into year 3, nobody's questioning the draft capital. Nobody's questioning the talent. What I'm here to look at is, can Amon-Ra St. Brown become an elite BAM tier type player where a lot of fantasy gamers are valuing him right now? You look at the peripherals. He's got an average quarterback. Jared Goff, average, maybe a little above average this season. 2nd year in Ben Johnson's offense. So that's good. I mean, everything on here is just screaming, yes, 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 yes. This is the next elite wide receiver. Everything from an advanced analytics standpoint is screaming buy, believe it, believe it, believe it. But I'm looking at the air yard share for Amon-Ra St. Brown, and this is what's concerning. If he can't get down the field, if he can't command downfield targets, and I believe, according to Fantasy Points Data Suite, he didn't have a lot down the field last season. I don't think he caught a lot of downfield targets past 20 yards, does everything after the catch, yards per route run are there, everything is good but the air yard share. You have to tell yourself a story that he can increase that, or go out there and you tell me he's going to get 180 targets, then yes, he is elite. He's going to hit that BAM tier range. But with the addition of Sam Laporta and Jahmyr Gibbs, I don't think that is as realistic of an outcome of a story to tell yourself. So let's just focus on his skill set and Amon-Ra's ability to get down the field. And when you look at Amon-Ra St. Brown, it's just something that has not been within his wheelhouse ever. You look at his 2020 season at USC, this was a guy who just did not go down the field. Air yard share, not yards after the catch. Air yard share was just not present at any point in time at USC. So this is something that we want to see him improve upon this year. Right now, below average, between 20 and 28%. You got to get up. You got to have that up. And I know the Detroit Lions have talked about wanting to use him down the field more. We'll see. He didn't do it in college. He hasn't done it so far in his career. So going into year 3, that is a tough sell for me to believe that all of a sudden a player who has never really done that is going to transition to that here in year 3. Again, this isn't a knock on Amon-Ra St. Brown. I loved him. He was a top 5 wide receiver for me in 2021. I told everybody, do not sell him after his rookie season. This kid can play, but he's probably not going to be the deep threat. That's why they brought in Jameson Williams. That's why they drafted him in the first round, because he complements Amon-Ra. He does something that St. Brown can't. They've got Marvin Jones and Khalif Raymond and a couple of other guys that I think are going to be utilized in that downfield role. If Amon-Ra gets more utilization down the field, he is a BAM tier receiver, no doubt. But right now, it's my only pause for concern is if he's actually going to do that. No, the coaches are talking about him, but you got to hit that. That ingredient needs to be there, or I want to see an uptick in target share and change this from that 25 to 29% and move that up to where you see A.J. Brown, Tyreek Hill, over 30% target share, and I think Amon-Ra St. Brown can be there. So there are multiple pathways. Even if he doesn't go down the field more, uptick in target share, or get that yards after the catch over 6, which is rare, which is elite. But if he can do those things, he will achieve the Trinity and be a BAM tier wide receiver in fantasy football this season. Devonta Smith, let's talk about the Slim Reaper, Philadelphia Eagles stud second-year receiver. This is another one. I don't give a damn about his size at this point in time. You look at everything, and it looks just as good, if not better, than what Amon-Ra St. Brown's chart looks like. Elite light target share, elite light yards per route run, 2 to 2.5. Yards after the catch per reception, elite light, 5 to 6 yards. He's got a good NFL quarterback in Jalen Hurts. Look at the PFF grade right there. It's purple. Everything looks good. And his air yard share is average, not below average, not bad. It's average, 28 to 34%, 35% for Devonta Smith. This is the type of player that if something were to happen to A.J. Brown, knock on wood, we don't hope for injuries, this guy's going to ascend to elite territory. Everything is already brewing. He's got all the ingredients, the yak, the yards per route run, the target share. Want to see that air yard share take a little uptick, and maybe part of the reason why Devonta Smith can't achieve that. Let's go take a look at his teammate, A.J. Brown, and there's the correlation right there. You see who the true alpha is in this offense. The air yard share for A.J. Brown, 35 to 40% elite light. Yards per route run for A.J. Brown, elite. Yards after the catch per reception, elite. Target share, elite light, and he's got the good quarterback. Blue, blue, green, green, purple. One of the best Holy Trinity ingredient components that we've seen inside this database is A.J. Brown, who did finish the season scoring more points per game than Amon-Ra St. Brown, then Devonta Smith, et cetera, et cetera. But you can see the elite receivers, all of this stuff looks pretty. It's blue, it's green, it's purple. That's what you want to see. But back to Devonta Smith, can he do that? Can he achieve that additional percentage in the air yard department? And I do believe so. I mean, it was something that he was phenomenal at Alabama. I mean, he did everything well. I mean, this is just insane. But the air yard share for him almost at 100%. I mean, he is right there early in his career, in his first season pre-A.J. Brown. You see the air yard share. But then it took a little bit of a dip with A.J. Brown being there, and we can assume that being the case. But Devonta Smith, probably one of the better bets to achieve that elite sort of wide receiver territory for you this season, especially if there's something that happens to A.J. Brown, which we don't want that to be the case. But I want to go to my number one breakout BAM tier wide receiver candidate for the 2023 season. I was on a podcast the other day, and I was asked if there were a guy to challenge Ja'Marr Chase, Justin Jefferson, and Marvin Harrison Jr. as wide receiver ones in Dynasty, which I don't think there's a chance anybody can do that. But if there's going to be one, I'm going to bet on the New York Jets wide receiver, Garrett Wilson. And yes, everybody is pegging Garrett Wilson for a breakout season this year. Let me tell you why. I think when you look at his profile right here on the screen, target share is already elite light, and this is playing with Zach Wilson, and this is having played with Mike White for a couple of games. He already had an elite light target share between 25 and 30%. The air yard share was fine. It was average, right? Average, just like Devonta Smith. Average yards after the catch per reception. He has now a great quarterback, according to PFF. This was not Zach Wilson. This is accounting for Aaron Rodgers, where he struggled at, and it's not a main component of the Trinity, but the yards per route run were under 1.5, which is not good. Now, a lot of that can be contributed to the offensive line and, again, the quarterback play, Zach Wilson and Mike White. But you don't want to see red inside of these departments. But we are going to switch over to Davante Adams and look at what Davante Adams was able to accomplish last year in Las Vegas. And then we'll go look at what he was able to do at Green Bay. So during his time in Green Bay, you look at the air yard share, the target share, and the yards per route run for Davante Adams in Green Bay was really good. And this was during his time with Aaron Rodgers. And you can just go down, even in 2020, yards per route run. Look at his graph. I mean, everything, target share, air yard share, yards per route run, all there for Davante Adams. So you've got to do a little wish casting, a little projection here for Garrett Wilson. But by all accounts, he will be their team's number one wide receiver this fall. There's no Allen Lazard. I'm not talking about McCall Hardman. We know it's going to be Garrett Wilson, and Corey Davis is just retired, so even more opportunity for Wilson. So I think it's a fair assessment to say the target share is going to at least stay and hover around elite light territory. His air yard share, we should see an uptick with Aaron Rodgers wanting to push this ball down the field. So we could probably just reasonably assume that that's going to be a blue bar right here. Yards after the catch per reception, again, you've got an efficient quarterback. You've got one of the best quarterbacks to play the game. You're probably going to get an upgrade in the yak department, and then his quarterback is going to be good. It's going to be the yards per route run for Garrett Wilson that we want to see. And you see last year, just not very good, but here's where I know he can get it done. You look at his collegiate profile, he had no problem with running downfield, getting 2-3 yards per route run. It is within his wheelhouse. This is a skill set in which he does possess. I do believe that the biggest reason why he suffered in this department last year was not due to his skill set, but due to the quarterback play. So if I'm looking at the number one true breakout, moving up to that elite territory for 2023, it's going to be Garrett Wilson for me. The uptick in quarterback should make all these ingredients a little bit fresher, a little bit better. I'm shopping at Whole Foods with Garrett Wilson. I'm not going to Walmart to get my produce. I've got to get this Trinity, and I do believe that Aaron Rodgers is going to help Garrett Wilson achieve this. So just a little insight to some of the things that we talk about over at Destination Devy and some of the why, trying to help you understand and tell yourself the story. So as you consume content, as you think about draft decisions, as you go into this fantasy season looking for a guy that can potentially hit and boom, and there's a lot of other players. Let me just real quick, since we're here, let's just scroll down a little bit. There are other bets that we can all make with some of these players to say, man, if all these things work out well, this could be a very good quarterback. A very good wide receiver. Just look at Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper, underrated. He's target share, elite light. Air yard share, elite light. Yards per route run, elite light. Quarterback grade with Watson. This is going back a little bit, right? But a good quarterback grade, PFF grade from Deshaun Watson prior to last season. It's the yards after the catch per reception is below average. So when you're trying to identify maybe a player that's going a little bit later, or you've got decisions to make, should I draft Amari Cooper or take a Jahan Dotson? You pull that up. bad, average, below average. Now, again, young quarterback, hopefully an uptick with Sam Howell this year. But that's just one of the ways in which I utilize some of these tools, some of these ingredients to help make an informed decision on bets that we're making, because that's all we're doing. We're making a bet when you press the draft button. So when you do that, use as much information as possible. Dive into the Holy Trinity principle. Air yard share, target share, yards after the catch per reception. Check out their quarterback. Are they playing with an efficient quarterback or a bad quarterback? All three, you probably got a damn dope wide receiver. 2 of 3, you probably have a really good one, especially if one of those ingredients are in elite or elite-like territory. If you only got one of those 3 ingredients, I don't know how impactful you can be. And if you don't have any of the 3, then it doesn't even matter. So if you've stuck around into the end of this video and you found this information actionable, entertaining, hit the thumbs up button, like the content, subscribe to the channel. Got more. There's way more receivers that we need to break down. The Holy Trinity is it. I hope you all enjoyed this video. We got more coming soon from DD. I appreciate y'all tapping in. I'm out of this thing. Peace.